But here's the kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about. I got a bunch of my thoughts out on this for vocfb.com.
Wait, we gotta catch up on the chat real quick. Hold on.
Okay, you want to catch up on the chat? Cool.
Yeah, if DeVries gets off to a slow start, will the fans remember Knight went 0 for January, his first year here? No, they will not remember that. This is my first time hearing about it too. And knowing IU fans, they won't care. They're insane people. Dan the Man Lanning is a premier coach in CFB at the moment, though Sig is the people's champs. Couldn't agree more. I think Lanning's the young face, young ascending coach. Sig's kind of more obviously an old head going into his second year at at the Power 2 level. So it's just a completely different vibe. I'd take Sig over Lanning, obviously, just because I like the experience and I like his roster building a ton. I think he's a great CEO of a football program. More so, Lanning's kind of learning on the fly in that regard, where he relies on the Oregon brand name for recruiting and obviously is a very smart coach schematically, both sides of the ball. So there's different things to like about him. So I like both those coaches. I think those are probably my two favorite coaches in the league. I think those are probably the two best coaches in the league. I think Ryan Day is probably right under Ryan Day, Lincoln Riley right under them. Probably missing. And then James Franklin. James Franklin's right there with all those guys too. And then DeVries will not get off to a slow start. The fans will love the movement. I hope so, man. It's May. So I'm locked in for football. Iowa can't score enough points. I think they'll score more points this year. The problem is I think they're going to give up more points than they usually give up. I don't think it's going to be the same type of Iowa we've seen in years past, where it's a loaded defense and an inept offense. I think it's going to be a little more balanced from them this year, but under for them. And then I think we're all caught up for the most part. Minnesota's tough. We might be underselling him, PK. Maybe we'll see. Franklin can't win the big one. He went to the semis. Like, what does that mean? What does that
did he win
mean?
it? Did he win it?
Yeah, he lost. He lost the football game, so therefore he can't win the big one. Therefore,
there you go.
But
you spot the lie, Brad.
Yeah,
spot the lie.
Oh man, that's just there can only be one winner. Like right now, Signetti. Like if I want to be like unbiased here, Signetti has not won the big one. Just putting it out there. But we're 1 year in.
And everything's
on the show. And I'm okay with that.
Removing Brad from the show.
I'm just saying, it's all about perspective, people like throwing, all these blanket statements at people. And, I think James Franklin did win the big one by going to the semis last year. I think that's huge.
You want to know what else is huge, Brad? This is what I wrote about for vocfb.com.
Yeah. What is
came out
huge?
today?
Yeah, I'll tee you up. What is huge, Keezer?
I'm gonna be honest. I found out about this yesterday because I missed the reporting on it in February. So I was like, my mind was blown while reading this Pete Thamel article. Only come to find out that in February there was an LLC created, and everyone knew that a CEO was coming to college football, or not just college football, college sports. Pete Thamel released an article yesterday detailing the power that this person's going to have. Basically, that they're going to have significant authority. They're going to make 7 figures. They're going to have subpoena power when it comes to arbitration hearings. They were selected by the Power 4 commissioners. They're going to report to a board of the Power 4 commissioners. And this person's going to come from outside of college sports and not be a household name to college sports fans. So this thing is full blown in motion. And the other thing is, this is not going to be an NCAA entity. This is a separate commission created by the power conferences that's going to be the disciplinary body of college sports, separate from the NCAA. So I basically wrote that the NCAA, as we know it as a disciplinary body, is dead. And this is the first step in what I believe is we're heading towards a super conference where you're going to end up having the Big Ten and the SEC. And it probably ends up at like somewhere between like 50 schools, and you have your Texas Techs and your Notre Dames and your Miamis and, your bigger brands from the non-Power 4 or the non-Power 2 conference. But like, this is the first step in just sectioning off college sports, and they're trying their hardest not to make them employees, but the answer is just collective bargaining and make them employees. But This is a fucking massive, massive deal, and we're about to see the singular most powerful individual in college sports we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. It's kind of a sore subject for me because it's kind of changing the whole idea of what college sports is. Obviously, it's kind of an inevitable thing that's been talked about for over a decade. By the way, I've been hearing about super conference since I was in high school. That was about, don't want to make people feel old, but that was about 12 years ago. And it's yeah, I was a freshman in high school 12 years ago. Time flies.
That's
Um
crazy.
yeah. And then
We're the same age, Brad. You know.
yeah. Oh, we are? I don't know. Um well, yeah, it's just I could be a pessimist and think about, reminisce on the good times and what college football used to be, athletes playing for their schools, love the game, no portal, no um bowl games mattered, no NIL, and obviously I think at the end of the day it's all going to be for the better. I think it's going to be a good product, and um it's going to make the quality of the game better. It kind of takes away the lore of what is college athletics a little
Oh,
bit,
100%.
which kind of stinks, right? But I
It's
think we're going to be
basically
better.
semi-pro.
Yeah, but we're going to be, which is what it kind of was for about
It's
20
what it
years, and
is. Yeah,
it's what it is.
these guys
Yeah,
have to get
and
paid. Like, and
yeah,
at the end of the day, like that's pay paying players to play is a pro sport, and so that's the model it's going to be.
yeah, it was an inevitable thing, which is kind of the reality of the situation because things were just getting out of hand in terms of, NIL. There's just no regulations, and these things need to be put in place, and it's only going to be for the better. It's made college basketball, NIL has already made college basketball better than it's ever been. It's awesome. It's great to see. You got players, staying for really good quality players, staying for 2, 3, 4 years now, as opposed to just going one and done because they can come back and get an NIL, right? And I think obviously it's not really about the bag. I've always thought that, there's less than 60 job openings in the NBA on a given year. And the fact that we had 300 kids going declaring early for the draft was just asinine to me. Obviously follow your dreams and I'm all for that, but like, it's a numbers game, guys. Like, the idea that,
They can't take all. They literally cannot
they,
take
they
all of them.
cannot take everyone unless they expanded 10 more teams in the NBA. And that doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So, it's going to make the quality of sports better. I hope they don't, this way, bringing it all under one umbrella and not just a college football umbrella. It's going to allow the other sports to survive, which I think is a great thing because I think a lot of people were worried about that. Like, what's going to happen to baseball? What's going to happen to soccer, men's and women's? What's going to happen to golf? What's going to happen to tennis? These were all worries that people had. What's going to happen to D2? What's going to happen to D3? I think putting it all under a different umbrella is going to, a second umbrella, if you will, NCAA and whatever we're going to call this commission.
Well, this is separate from the NCAA, and I think you're going to start
Yeah.
seeing this commission stiff arm a lot of the NCAA, and we're a couple years away from no
Yeah. Well,
NCAA.
yeah, we got a lot of weight on and see what's going to happen. But yeah, it's kind of an end of an era. But I'm glad that, bringing it back to Indiana, I'm glad that we're set up in a position to where we're in a great spot for football, which is going to be the main driver for revenue moving forward. And we're in a great position for that. And that's just going to help out the rest of our athletic programs like soccer, swimming and diving, baseball, and basketball, which are all sports that Indiana holds true and dear to their hearts way before football. Those were kind of the core 4 programs at the school. And having football where it's at is only going to help them in the long run, considering the shift in college sports that we're about to see. And yeah, that's kind of the end of my tangent. So, or not my tangent, my spiel, if you will.
And the other last note I wanted to get in there from the Thamel article was that the conferences are trying to work in a clause where the teams waive their right to sue the committee, but it wouldn't extend to entities that aren't associated with the school. So that, in my opinion, like boosters or NIL collectives, um, would still be able to do that, but they want to take away the school's ability to sue them.
The new commission or the
Yeah,
CFP committee? Just the
The new
commission.
commission.
The new commission. Okay.
Basically the main responsibility for this CEO is going to be to enforce the rules. They're going to have final disciplinary power and say on all matters. The only way you can appeal the process is through arbitration. And
Curious to see who this guy will be.
Exactly. And by the way,
random though, I do have an interview next week, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, curious to see who's going to be named the commissioner.
by the way it was worded in the article, it seems like the decision's all but made. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on
So you're
that.
saying my interview's all for show? It's all just they already made the decision. They're just having me interview for no reason.
Yeah, I think they're like filling requirements. So like we need at least one host from every college podcast. So they grab you.
Or just like a really smart guy in general, you know.
Yeah. So like we need the guy who's read 10 years of Phil Steele. How do we
10? That's selling me short. I have the last 14 copies, brother.
John says I'm waiting on their phone call to get my opinion on who to hire.
Yeah, John, that's my joke. You know, I don't.
He made it before you, so I don't know.
I made a slight joke earlier, and then I'm not gonna argue. John, thanks for participating. Love you, John.
Shout out to SoCal Hot Sauce. Keep up the good work, boys. I heard a 72-team college student football league. How many teams do you predict end up in this league, and what happens to the schools on the outside looking in?
I wish I had an answer.
That's a whole. Honestly, that's a whole episode. That is We'll take a week and figure that thing out on a large scale. But I think the teams that end up on the outside looking in are the ones that are not doing what they're already there. Like you saw the way Indiana acted with the fire. Like to Purdue's credit, you saw the way they're trying to course correct now after how horrible they were last year versus like you look at a school like Northwestern where it kind of seems like they're just going to let football happen and whatever happens, happens. I think that's a school that probably ends up on the outside looking in versus like.
I'd have to think all the Power 4 schools are safe.
I don't think they're safe. I think you're going to have to demonstrate. You're going to spend a certain amount and put a certain product on the field. And if you're not going to be one of those schools, then you're just like, I think it's going to be a monetary thing. And if you can't reach certain benchmarks, like you're not going to be in that league. It's going to be strictly sports based.
Interesting.
At least in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all this stuff play out. It's so new to the point where it's like this has never been done before, so there's not much to go off of. Like, if you've ever heard me talk, I always go off history and like what I've seen before. This is something I've never seen before. This is something no one's seen before. So if I were to give any takes on what I think the future holds, like I'd be kind of just talking out of my ass, which I do a lot, but this would be a whole nother level, in my opinion, of talking out of my ass in terms of what I think is going to happen. It's
all speculation.
It's new territory. It's all speculation. So it's yeah. I'm intrigued. I'm a little sad. It's a little bittersweet, but I think in the long run, it's all for the best. I think the quality of the game is going to be a lot better. But we're always going to remember, those Johnny Manziel, Jameis Winston, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, like those. I mean, man, from 95 to about 09. Oh, you can even go as far as 2012. I mean, that college football absolutely peaked. I mean, that was just the best. The best. Obviously, I just said my whole childhood, right? But it was just the best. It really was. I mean, it became super. Obviously, it was already super popular in the 80s and 90s, but I think it took another step once we hit the turn of the century, right? With the whole BCS starting in 1998, right? And that kind of started the shift of the popularity of the sport. Ironically, 1998 was when I was born. So it's kind of a fitting kind of thing that, 1998 BCS era, and then we went to the CFP era, and then things started to kind of shift. And then now we're in this 12-team CFP era with NIL, and there's just so much going on, transfer portal.
And that might not even last too long.
Good things, but the sport got so popular and kind of not so much gotten its own way, because I think in the long run it's all for the best, but just like it just changed, because it just got so popular and so big time. And it's probably the most, like, besides the NFL, it's probably the most popular sport in the country. or at least the most popular league, I would say. Right? Like even when you're casual, you're still watching college football casually on Saturday, right?
I'm not gonna say it's bigger than the
Saturday.
MLB, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty damn big, is what I'll say. There's
But
people
no,
out
you're
there
right.
that only watch
It's
college football and they
definitely
don't watch anything else.
it's
Like
definitely
we
the end
know,
of an
like
era.
Jackson Johnson over there at Voice of College Football in Alabama, right? Like I don't know how much he's watching besides college football, to be honest. And there's probably tons of people like him. So yeah. The BCS era was really the best for college football. I agree. We had a whole season where one loss could knock you out. I don't know if that was the best. I think keeping the BCS, but then maybe having a playoff system with the BCS, I think would have been great. But yeah, like I said, I think the sport just got too popular. I think it's good NILs here, less money under the table. I think that's all good things, even playing field. But yeah, all these things were just inevitable, and this it just kind of happened, And it's not a good or a bad. I think it's mostly good, but it's not necessarily like good or bad. It's just what happened, right?
I agree. That's all I got for this week, Brad.
That's all we got. That was a good episode, Pacers on tomorrow for all the Indiana people.
Go Pacers. We didn't get matched up with the Pacers for the first time in like 2-3 weeks. So
that's huge.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean Pacers Knicks. That is one of the most not talked about rivalries, but it's huge. Like we're talking, small town market versus the Big Apple. We're talking John Starks versus Reggie Miller way back in the 90s. I mean, that's a series that I'm so I don't know if I've been more excited for a playoff series that didn't involve the Lakers than this one. I mean, I'm going to watch every second of that series. I think it's going to be electric. I don't know what's going to happen in these NBA playoffs. I'm leaning Wolves, Knicks, but I could be totally wrong. But I'm rooting for the Pacers. I hope they pull it off. Big fan of Tyrese Halliburton. He's our Team USA point guard of the future. He's going to be our starting point guard in the Olympics 2028. So, always rooting for him in that sense. And yeah, definitely rooting for the Pacers. I think as an unbiased sports hoops person, I got Knicks in 7. Sorry, Pacers fans. And then I got Wolves in 7 as well. I like them both going 7. So
crazy. I agree with John though. I like now because we won 11 games. Full blown agree.
Facts. No, that's a good perspective, honestly. Agree. Yeah. Indiana really couldn't have timed this perfectly because it's like if we were good, like what does it matter that we were good in the 90s when this whole thing is happening? It's going to shift the whole landscape of the sport for the next 50 years. Like none of it even like the 90s don't even like obviously they matter.
No, the only thing that but no, you're right. The only thing that matters is being ready now because if you get left behind now, you're going to get left behind and the gap's going to be so seismic. It's going to take an insane amount of money to close it if you can even close it. So
it's amazing what Indiana was able to pull off, and it really does. Obviously, that what's important here is that we
keep going.
Yeah, we win 8 games at least next year. If we don't, we're in big trouble. But yeah, like I said, I think we're gonna go 11.
Keep stacking.
So, yeah, keep stacking days, keep stacking weeks, keep stacking months, keep stacking years. That's what we're doing.
And check out vocfb.com. Again, I wrote an article today about a new CEO and the power that person's going to wield over college football. If you're watching on Twitter, hop over to YouTube, hop in the YouTube chat. We're interacting with the chat all day. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Alec Keyser. That's Brad at Bradley_Loomis8. You can follow the show at Indiana VOCFB on Twitter and Instagram. We're talking Hoosiers every week, every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. We're live. And expect some very positive Indiana basketball news. Expect another, I don't know how many more teasers they plan on dropping for the Bison mascot, but the Bison's coming. and obviously we'll be here to talk about it when it officially drops. And
I'm gonna bet you $5.
I
I'm gonna bet you
was
$5
gonna
to get another commitment for 2026 between now and next Tuesday. I don't know who it's gonna be, but they're gonna get someone. Someone's gonna commit.
I hope that I don't want to win money if that doesn't happen. I'll take that. And at some point at some point in the near future, we'll have Mark Rogers from the Voice of College Football on. He's going to be joining us, and so I'm super excited about that as well. Appreciate you, Daryl.
Appreciate you listening,
hanging
Daryl.
out
I
with
know we were
us.
giving you some flack earlier, but yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, we have a lot of respect for Notre Dame. Like, we're chasing you guys. So
I went to that Notre Dame game this past year. Super impressed. Blew away my expectations of what I expected, like the environment of Notre Dame Stadium to be. I always thought of Notre Dame fans as a little, Catholic, a little posh. I mean, they were loud. They were into it. I like that when they score, they do I obviously didn't like it in the moment, but I think it's cool that they do little push-ups in the stands. Did not feel great at the Jeremiah Love touchdown by any means, but lots of respect for Notre Dame. I wish we played every year, and I do like the banter and the rivalry that's starting to build within the state. I think it's great for the game, especially with USC chickening out of this rivalry. Daryl, what's up with that? Lincoln Riley's soft. He's pulling out.
That's what the super conference is just going to save all of it. Don't worry. There's going to be nowhere to run when they're in the same conference.
Yeah, no, they should just schedule UCLA. That's what they should do. They should just go, just kind of, cheat on their ex a little bit, or cheat on their girlfriend, and schedule a home and home with UCLA.
Appreciate you guys hanging out this week. We'll see you guys next week. Check us out on Twitter. Interact with us. We're active. So shout out to you guys. See you next week.
Cheers. Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.